So I've majorly got the PCB finished here, and you might see some few errors here and there, some clearances for what we need to look into and what we can do. So for these things we can just delete them to get rid of the error if it's just a via and such. Though another thing I would like to say is that these errors are where the clearance is too close together, so perhaps your PCB manufacturer said, oh, I can't do this for this rule for differentials and whatnot. There is probably a rule in which you can set up and clear, but if you're really unsure about it, it is best to contact them, as I keep saying, and this is what I'll be doing just to make sure. I mean, I'm sure on their website, I think I'm going to go with PCB way on this. I can go through with it and we'll see how it is. There's still a few errors I will need to correct. For example, this D3, I'm not too happy on how that placement is, but the large majority and chunk of it is complete, and I'm quite satisfied with the results for this design. A few vias here that are poking through the silk screen, which I don't really mind about. Things here, maybe you can, if you're so keen to get rid of that one, if it doesn't really cause a big issue. But there isn't really much. This is a test development board into which I will be measuring things, and it's more of a learning sake really, but as well as a project, and I'm just making live actions on the go. But one thing is that, and what I'm going to start incorporate, is actually making these test points into which I can adjust them and measure certain things, like these jumpers here. It gives us the flexibility to do certain things and what we want to do. One thing to also mention is that you may be wondering about the via sizes. I have opted, so when I restitch this board or not, I can opt to go for a same size via as the rest. So I tend to only use two sizes really, unless it's really necessary. One is a power delivery via, and the one is kind of a signal via. Since you don't really expect high amounts of currents in the signal vias, you can go a bit smaller than you want to get rid of these copper ions I keep on mentioning. So we've got a 0.4 and 0.6 in diameter, and it's not really too much of an issue for what it is. Added to USB here, as I said, to programming it. I wasn't too sure for USB-C it should work. I don't really see a reason why it wouldn't, but it's always good to make sure of things. I've kept all the silk screen on. You can see it can get quite cluttered. One thing people see it as with this silk screen here, if it gets too clustered and there's too much, people may want to turn it off, and that it's too much of a hassle to place it all around. Whilst your board will look nicer and there's effects on, well, technically it doesn't really have any effects and whatnot, though I still think it's worth, especially on a development board, I think it's quite crucial, because it is incredibly difficult, if you haven't already, trying to debug a board without these reference designators. It is incredibly hard. It is really, so I'd say you keep them on, and of course when you come to your final board, you've done all your prototypes, chuck them off. Theoretically there shouldn't be any errors whatsoever, so you wouldn't need them anyway. But as you can see, since I do need them, and I don't know if I need to bodge some wires, I'm placing these here so I know are which moving forward. Another one with mounting holes is that it can be quite, I think it's on topic of what depends and whatnot, but before I used to ground them, now I leave them on ground, and I need to put a clearance section here, and it's mainly because if you imagine that one day we could increase the clearance on these quite drastically, but if you imagine one day that you get these things, and the clearance wasn't that tight, and someone put a metallic screw right through, then you've essentially shorted everything, and you're gonna wonder why is your board failing so drastically, and you're gonna have the screws that are live, and it's really not that ideal. So, but if you put a big clearance around it, so if I say this whole area here, I can say that, okay, it doesn't really matter if I drill through it, or if I had to make some errors, I don't have that tight of a tolerance, because I know that they'll be alright at the end of it. It won't be that bad to deal with. I won't be shorting out the whole entire board, but of course alternatively you could just put plastic screws and call it a day, but it's up to you. I would suggest, if you're unsure and if you don't know where it's going, put in clearance and leave it empty. Overall, there is not really much else to go about that. I've already covered on this channel, so I won't be reiterating the same things as per usual. I just wanted to showcase the final design. It's always good to get a 3D view. So I was placing the most important thing, the logo there. So it's good to get a 3D view and seeing what else could be modified, as when you're working in the 2D you just see layers of red and blue. So it's quite an easy, nice way to see if there's anything peering out, to give them one last look. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm gonna go through it and probably go through it, see about those clearance issues, and hopefully get it done in order, and we'll be working further on the firmware side of